what's the main book you have? What book do you want everyone to know about here?
I want to talk about my series, which is Shadowfast action thrillers. And, besides being an author, I'm also a fan of this genre, right? I just love reading action thrillers. Read them, read them, read them. Over time, if you read enough of them, even though we love it, it gets a little samey.
Right.
It's 80% of the time it's a dude and he has kind of the same skill set. And, you know, so I wanted to do something that was still in the genre, but a little different. And so it's different in a couple of ways. First of all, it like Mission Impossible, it's a team of people instead of just one guy.
Nice.
Uh, but it does focus on a main character, Quinn Richards. He is a second generation con man and thief. His dad was a con man. He's a
Nice.
con man, but it doesn't sit great with him. He can't tell if he's a good guy or a bad guy, and he's trying to work it out.
Okay.
So along the way, him and his army buddies formed a heavy metal band, and then over time, it also became a heist crew. And so it's probably
Nice.
the only
Nice.
thriller series about a heavy metal band and heist crew.
Nice.
And they advertise their services on the dark web, and so they don't always know who their clients are. And the events of the book are they get a client who turns out to be entrapping them. They do the job and find out he's recorded it. And now they're being blackmailed by a corrupt politician to do something that's way over their head, kind of out of their skill set. But if they don't do it, they're all going to prison.
Right.
Plus, the US is going to return to the Stone Age because it's a technological attack they're trying to stop.
Of
So
course.
it's
Right.
called Metal Spies because they were a metal band. They never meant to be spies. They're getting coerced into this. And
Okay.
so that kicks off the series.
All right.
This book,
So
if
Metal
anybody
Spies.
wants to
So
look for it. Yeah.
yeah. So how many books in the series then?
There are three right now.
Okay.
There will be three more coming out in early 2025.
Okay. So you're working on the next books right now then, I assume?
Oh, yeah, we're very far along. It goes to the editor in August.
Okay.
Uh, so
Nice.
by March of next year, there will be six of these.
Okay, nice. Do you plan to continue the story after the six, or does it stop at six? Or are you going to wait and see? Or
No, I have plans for it. So hopefully, I'm not really spoiling anything that matters. Towards the end of
yeah,
the first arc, they've been sent after this tech billionaire. And once they have their encounter with him, their dark, mysterious client, who you'll find out about in the book, says, okay, one down, two to go. So each of these arcs
nice.
goes after an evil billionaire.
Yeah,
And so we knock down three of them. I don't feel like it's all quite done.
right. Okay, very good. All right.
And if you're watching this and you're an evil billionaire, no offense intended.
Yeah, yeah. Not based on any real person, right? Completely fictive. The evil
Inspired
billionaire.
by, but
Yeah,
not the
inspired by Mr. Burns.
the villain in the first book is actually inspired by what they call tech bro billionaires. There
Okay.
was that guy whose name doesn't come to mind right now, but he bought a pharmacy company and immediately raised the price of insulin
Oh, really?
600% or something
Oh,
just because he
wow.
could. There's a bunch of these younger billionaires who feel like the rules don't apply to them. So
Yes. Yeah.
in Metal
I like
Spies, the
it.
villain is a guy named Brody Bach who has a little elements of a tech bro, maybe a touch of Elon Musk, and that his expertise is aerospace. Um,
Yeah.
anyway,
Okay.
that's who they're encountering.
Nice. Okay. All right. How do you come up with the ideas for these stories? You kind of mentioned a little bit some of the background of wanting to do something maybe different than the genre, that sort of thing. How do you put it all together? Do you do you do brainstorming, or do you just kind of pick and choose things over time, or how do you get all these elements of thriller, spy, heavy metal band, and then the team, and then come up with the plot? How do you do all
That's a very thought-provoking question. I feel
that?
like I'm just sort of an idea machine. I mean, this
Okay.
stuff is occurring to me all the time. Like I mentioned, I'm a fan of the genre. Uh, So when I'm reading books and I see something, it's like, oh, that could have been done better. Or
Yeah.
not to be arrogant, but another way to put it is like, okay, how many books have you read where somewhere in there one character tells another, we can do this the easy way or we can do it the hard way.
Right.
So,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
that doesn't have to show up in every book. So my take on it, which is coming in the second series, there's a character who likes to say that because he thinks it's badass. He never gets to finish the line. Every time he gets
Okay. Yeah.
clonked on the head or interrupted or so. So
Nice.
part of my idea is I love the tropes. I want the tropes. I want there to be car chases. I want there to be shootouts, but I
Yeah.
try to freshen it up just a little. So if
I
you're someone who reads a lot of these and you just want a little bit of a palate cleanser, it's not
okay.
so out there or weird, that you won't get it.
Yeah.
It's just a little different.
Yeah. I love that. Like when the character says that sort of thing. Is it self-aware? Like is it really like the character is intentionally trying to quote an action movie or something,
Oh,
or does it happen natural?
no.
Like how
Yeah, yeah.
how
No,
how
it's
how
not. It's not.
heavy-handed is that? Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
didn't mean to talk over you.
No.
It's not farcical. I
Okay. Okay.
I have a couple of reviews that are my favorites. First, I was really excited to be endorsed by bestthrillerbooks.com,
Nice.
referred to the series as epically fun. Uh, but another favorite reader review on Amazon, he said it's like reading Mission Impossible, but with the humor and camaraderie of Guardians of the Galaxy. So
Nice. Okay.
it is kind of comparable to those Marvel movies where there's lots of adventure. There are parts where you're seriously worried, but there's laughs along the way. And by the
Okay.
end, you feel a little bit more uplifted than gloomy.
Yeah.
So that's the vibe.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. And there's action in the books, I take it, I assume.
Oh, very much so.
Right.
In the first arc, I just conceived of a bunch of set pieces and then started working to figure out what could thread them together. This is
Yeah.
inspired literally by how Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie put together the last three or four Mission Impossible movies.
Okay.
I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I found out though that trying to retroactively install some meaning in all the action was a chore.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Yeah.
people seem to think it works. So yeah, the reader
Cool.
can be the judge.
Yeah. Right. Right. As an author, like when you're writing an action scene, it seems like, me, I always struggle with how much detail I put in the action scene, you know, because if I'm kind of a junkie, on action junkie, I kind of like to put in all the little details, right, of the fight scene, maybe. But then a lot of times, readers don't like too much detail, so how do you generally work your action scenes and put that in the story?
Yeah, like, great question. Um, I find that the part that bogs stuff down is if you spend too much time trying to over explain like where everybody's standing and the architecture of whatever the battle arena is and all that. But as far as what's happening to the viewpoint character, I think nearly infinite detail is fine.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
extremely fortunate. In the 90s, I got to study advanced commercial fiction at the University of Washington, and my teacher was a woman named Pam Goodfellow. Well, she's the editor for Stephen King, Michael
Mhm.
Crichton,
Oh, wow.
Garrison
Yeah,
Keillor, some heavy hitters. She's
yeah.
the one who took the 500 pages out of the stand.
Oh,
And what she
wow.
taught us
Wow.
was put it in the viewpoint character's body. So you
Right,
can't just say he was scared, right? But you
right.
can talk about all the things that your body does when you're terrified. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
breath comes short. You actually feel yourself break out in sweat. You can't see yourself blush, for example, but you can
Right,
feel your face get hot. So
right.
I go to a very close viewpoint where you're feeling the punch, you're
Yeah,
uh, smelling the cordite, it's all
yes.
in the body. And the other thing I'll add is as long as you do that in short sentences, I,
Uh-huh.
I think it just flows fine, and you get to
Okay.
experience it as a reader visually. Um,
Yeah.
what kind of comes at you is a lot of quick, sharp impressions. Uh,
Yeah.
I've worked with other authors who thought that because it's supposed to be moving fast, they should do it all as one long sentence. That's
Right.
kind
Yeah.
of the opposite of
That
what you
actually
want. Because you're
slows
trying
the
to
reader
hold so
down.
much in your head. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It actually, yeah, I know what you mean. 'Cause that act for the reader, it usually slows it down. The character may have the feeling that it's a fast, long, descriptive sentence, but for the reader, it slows down. One interesting example of that is that I learned from Brandon Sanderson was always writing the beginning that if you have this action set piece or something that's happening quickly, a lot of times you start the sentence with suddenly, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly this happened, like suddenly the door opened, versus it's like that word suddenly, we know what it means, but it actually slows the pace of the scene down, right? Why not just say the door opened? The
Yeah.
suddenly actually slows it down.
That's a great observation. I actually had to go through and remove a bunch of those
Yeah, right.
for exactly the reason you say. If
Yeah,
you just put the sentence, then to the reader it is sudden.
correct. Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's no
So
reason to
so
say
you're eliminating unnecessary words and you're
yes.
making it more closely to the character, so
Yes,
um
as you read it, it just feels more muscular, and
yeah,
the verbs are driving, and it's not
yeah.
suddenly and without any warning whatsoever.
Right, yeah,
That
exactly.
doesn't help.
Without any warning,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. A hand-to-hand combat scene. And if you write it from the perspective of a martial arts veteran who's had, 20 UFC fights and he's, been in combat in Iraq for 20 years, how you write that scene is probably going to be very different than if you wrote that scene from a 22-year-old perspective who's never been in a fight before in his life. Correct? Is that
That's a wonderful example, and I actually have things like that in the Shadowfast series because uh, I've gotten a lot of compliments on the characters who form this crew.
hmm
Uh, One of them is a I call him a kid. He's probably 22, but his name is ridiculous, so he goes by Night Boy. And the reason he goes by Night Boy is he has this rare syndrome in his eyes. It's real. It's called the Holmes 80 syndrome. It's
Mm,
extremely rare. His pupils will never close. His pupils are just always wide open.
really?
So he can hardly function in the daylight, but at
Wow.
night, it's like he just has his own organic night vision goggles.
Oh,
So
wow.
he can get away with a lot of sneaky stuff because to him, it just looks like twilight.
Interesting. Okay.
So he's a knife fighter
Yeah.
and
Okay.
he's very inexperienced. And there's a
Sure.
set piece in the second book, Metal Lies, where he thought he was just going to shadow this guy, and he realizes he has fallen into a trap with Chinese military, and he's got to somehow quietly deal with a range of soldiers.
Okay.
So his thing is entirely different than another character that's in there, Danny. He is basically the muscle of the team, and
hmm
he believes the Bushido warrior code. He reads about war and warriors all across history. He's a very experienced fighter. And so when he's fighting someone, as you read the account, he's naming off all the movements and the forms he's using, and he's telling
Oh,
himself,
I
I
see.
rushed that one. And he
Okay. Okay.
totally knows what's going on and what to expect. And
Right.
there's not much luck involved with him. He's going to finish that battle as fast as he can, and
Right.
he's
Okay.
brutally efficient. So
Okay.
there is a real difference depending on who's in the heat there.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you've got a character that has like all the terminology and the history and all that stuff, yeah, they're going to be thinking about stuff differently. So
Yeah.
that's,
And
that's
just to
a,
tell you one more different one, because I think it's
yeah.
fun. This is part of my goal of sort of freshening the tropes. Every
Mm,
time you read about a heist crew, the tech hacker guy
Yep.
is always this willowy, nerdy person. Like
Yeah.
in
Right.
Mission Impossible movies, Simon Pegg plays it,
Right.
right?
Yep. Yep.
But I worked in tech from the mid 80s until just a year ago.
hmm
And I met all kinds of people. And the one who left a big impression on me is this huge Samoan guy
Yeah.
who, when I worked in big data storage, he was the expert on massive installations like the storage that flows all of iTunes to the world,
Oh,
and
wow. Yeah.
storage that flows all Facebook videos to the world.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
looks more like Jason Momoa than Simon.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
that's
Right.
my hacker. Uh, but he has a secret too, because during his time in Afghanistan, he was camped by the burn pits. When he
Okay.
deployed, he had no respiratory illnesses. When he came back, he did.
Yeah. Okay.
He's the scariest looking guy in the book, but he can't really do much of anything. He's getting
I
gas
see.
out in the first 30 seconds of the fight.
Right.
So
Right.
you have some kind of fun with that, where he looms over
Good.
everybody and they all get scared, but you need Danny, the muscle guy, to come and do the actual work.
I see.
So again, I like your question of different characters experiencing violence and conflict in different ways.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's good. I like that, and kind of changing up some of the things. That reminds me, I wrote a fantasy, very very classical, a very modern epic fantasy, and you've got the classic, young hero, right?
Yeah, the
Young,
stripling on a quest.
yeah, the young hero, and then you've got the old wizard, right? So
Sure.
I just switched those two. The hero is a old 65-year-old dude who's way past his prime and kind of jaded. And then, but the wizard is a young 20-year-old kid monk who knows everything and is teaching the old guy, So
That's
that's,
so cool.
yes, same type of thing where it's kind of like
Yeah,
we like those tropes, but we do like to
right.
see them in a different way. So
Yeah, you still get them,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
love Dean Koontz's line, surprise me in familiar ways.
Yes, yes, I
That's
love
what
that.
we're up to.
Right,
I,
right.
this is not relevant to anything, but I had this thought the other day. When I was a kid, I had all the Hardy Boy books. I was
Oh yeah.
obsessed between ages probably 7 and 12. And I just thought the other day, I wonder what life is like for the Hardy Boys at age 70.
Oh yes,
What
yeah,
if Frank and Joe are estranged from each other? They have
yeah.
like child actors do, where you were golden when you were a kid and then you're kind
Yeah.
of nutty.
I
I'd like to
love
think
that.
about that.
Yeah, he's been divorced 3 times.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
And
dude.
he misses the fame, but he doesn't want the fame.
Yeah. What if like that would be a fun story to write? Like that's very interesting. I love that type of stuff. Yeah. Do you follow into more of um the plotter and the outliner, or the free flow pantser, kind of just write it in the moment type of thing? All of us writers are kind of on a spectrum, but
Yeah.
how do you kind of fall into more of the one or the other, or how would you describe your process?
Cody, do you go around telling people you're on the spectrum?
Yes, I do.
That might not mean what you think.
Yeah, yeah,
No, I'm actually evolving. So
okay,
again, I was very fortunate to get tremendous training. I mentioned Stephen King's editor.
yeah,
For a while, I grew up in LA, so I really wanted to try and sell a screenplay. My very first book got some attention from, it was a YA book, an ABC After School Special wanted to look at it. I thought, oh, I need to be a screenwriter.
yeah,
So I got to take in person the courses from Blake Snyder, the guy who wrote
okay,
Save the Cat.
yeah.
And he
Oh
gave
wow.
me his email address, and we actually had some interaction. He had a very untimely death in 2009, but
Oh
so I was a Save the Cat disciple
yeah.
all the way. Um, and for readers who are not familiar with it, Blake watched hundreds and hundreds of Hollywood movies with a focus especially on the big box office ones that were successful.
Hmm.
And he discerned 15 things that happen in every single one of these, regardless of genre. He calls them the beats.
Yeah,
And, you know, they start with an opening image that shows normal life for that character. They might be at work, they might be at play, they might be at home, but this is their normal life. Then there's an inciting incident where it kind of turns the world upside. You can name all 15 of them.
yeah.
I was into that and I still use it. But when you're doing a novel, it's not enough.
Right, right.
There's so much interstitial stuff to get from one beat to the next.
Yeah,
And especially here on this second arc, I am a plantser. I,
Plants are, I
I
like
I
it. Yeah.
plot it out in advance, but I find I am vamping a lot of stuff in between,
Yeah.
and I've had some characters pop up and decide to do things that weren't in the plan, but I think that's good. That means that
Yeah.
the characters are sort of taking on some life and roundedness.
Yeah.
So I'm in between. I
Yeah.
definitely do make that plot, but if something better comes along, I will abandon it, modify it,
Yeah.
uh, pad it out, well, whatever makes for a good story and a good time.
Sometimes holding too closely to a recipe or something might restrict you versus
Yes.
if you have
Yeah.
something that just kind of allows you to flow a little bit. And I think that I'm sure that comes across in your writing work because to me, what you're describing is more of a natural cause and effect thing that can happen.
Yes.
And so I think
Yeah.
the blending of those two, kind of your understanding of both of those, I think is a very effective way to tell a story. Yeah.
So
No,
there's
it's
a
good.
different method for every single writer.
Right, right. Yeah. Oh, I love that, man. Well said. Well said. How can people find you? What's your website? How do they find you?
Sure. The website is coldchase.media.
Okay.
Uh,
Media.
yeah. Uh, Facebook is where I'm most active.
Okay.
You can look up Cold Chase. I'm on Instagram some of the time.
Okay.
And and then anybody who's watching this, if they would like to sign up to be on my newsletter,
Mhm.
you can instantly get all of Metal Spies, the first book in the series, as a free ebook. So
Nice. Okay.
I don't know if we'll put that link on the screen or
Yes, we'll put it'll
okay.
be in the description in the email.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So that we'll put your website and then that link. And so they get the entire book one for free then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Okay.
And I'm hoping you'll like it enough to want to read two, three, and then early next year, four, five, six, whatever.
Nice.
But no strings attached. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
uh, on my newsletter list, you'll hear from me about once a month,
Okay.
and usually I'm sending to let you know about bargains that are going on.
Right.
Uh, so
Okay.
hopefully you'll
Nice.
find value in that too. And of course, you can always
Absolutely. And
unsubscribe.
so, and do you have release dates for the next one, or generally when is the next one going to be out?
There will be three of them, and they are scheduled for January, February, March
Okay,
2025.
so 1 month apart. Okay, so coming
Yeah,
right up then. So okay,
yeah, and so you've
okay.
got time to read the first, as we call it, the Shadowfast thrillogy. So
Ooh, well done. I like that. The trilogy. Well done. Okay. All right. Well, Cole, dude, thank you so much. Always love talking to you. Got some great stuff. Guys, Metal Spies is the book. Check it out. The website is coldchase.media. And yeah, we are going to look forward to book 3 coming out early next year. So
Cody,
thanks,
why did
Cole.
the spy cross the road?
I don't know why.
He never did. He was never really on your side.
Ah, yes. Love it. Love it. Well done. I love it. Okay. All right, Cole. Thanks so much, man. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Okay, thanks, man.
Yep.